All right, welcome back for the episode of Carnivore Trades. Today is Monday, November 14th, 2022. If you're not done so already, give the video a thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com for swing trading alerts and analysis. Anyways, markets finishing lower here. A pretty slow day across the board, even slower than last Friday, if you ask me. Although we did have a little bit of a downtick in the afternoon. So Spider's actually finishing down on about 80 basis points. Triple Q's down just under 1%, just under 90 basis points there, and the Dow down 0.5% or so. You see the volatility here via the VIXI actually upticked quite a bit here from 1340 to 1374 in really the last 2 hours or so. You see the actual VIX there did finish green, so up 5%. Is this really anything to really get too excited about? I wouldn't right now. Now, if we see the spiders continuing to hold up and eventually go green and the VIX is continuing to base here sideways, yes, that is a red flag. So we'll keep an eye on that moving forward. And it does appear like that, it felt today to me, and even you can make this case Friday as well, but today this really felt like even though we finished down, I mean, it looks like it's almost a 1% down day. It looks like, if you just looked at the number, it looks like a lot more, but it's really just an inside day, right? But it felt a lot to me like most of the day, with the exception of the last 30, 40 minutes where we kind of down ticked a little bit. It felt a lot like August, right? I mean, look at the volume, 69 million shares. It's 10 minutes after the close right now. I believe by the close, it was about 58 or 60 million. I'm sure like a large block went off at the close, but either way, it was about 60 million by the close. So very light, very anemic inside day. You see, take a look at the price action. Look at the semis. Look how tight of a range that is. Even the spiders really all day with the exception of the last literally 10 to 20 minutes. Same thing on the Qs. The Russell 2000, look at that tight range outside of that one little part where you kind of peeked out of it. NVIDIA right here, you can see on my screen, Apple, very, very tight range. So it did have that kind of like late August feel to it. We are getting closer to the holiday period. So Thanksgiving next weekend, or next week rather. We do have options X this week as well. So expect a lot of whipsaw, a lot of theta burn, a lot of tight, choppy action. Probably even some rumors. We'll probably get, Sam Bankman-Fried's Twitter was pretty much a mystery today. I don't know if you guys saw those tweets, but totally nuts here. I wouldn't be surprised if we got some rumors out of them this week as well, with options X being in play. There's also talk of Zelensky wants peace now with Russia. So there's catalysts here on both sides. Lots of rumors, lots of gameplay this week, but it did feel very complacent. It's basically what I was getting into. That said, it's, I mentioned this over the weekend, and really last Friday and even on Thursday, that this would kind of be your big level here for the spiders, and that still is true. I mean, this is a major pivot right here. And then, of course, this trend line down sloping from the all-time high, literally the day of the all-time high. So that's obviously a major level of resistance. The only problem I have with it is that it's so obvious. And I mean, it's obvious. It's clear as day. And, of course, the 200 moving average right there as well. And, I've seen a lot of accounts on Twitter and YouTube and so on basically like mark this spot as like that's the big spot, And just based off what we saw last Thursday, it leads me to believe, could they pull the rug one more time? So that is something to be careful for. Again, if we go straight up into that level, in a straight line without much a pullback, outside of a day or two, then this resistance will still be major. And I don't think anything would really stop it at that point. But if we consolidate, then there's a chance you can push through that. So just be aware. And I do think we probably do some back-end filling this week. It's definitely possible, given the fact that it is OPEX week. So again, we'll take it one day at a time. Today did not really tell us anything. Honestly, it was an inside day. And there's not much to really add here. There really isn't. It's just an inside day. Market was, very overbought here over the last two sessions, and you pulled back. That's really what we're going to leave it at for now. Same thing with the triple Qs. So again, we went up into that trend line, the blue trend line there, and we basically, for all intents and purposes, tested that pivot. So that is a major pivot there as well, around 290. Triple Qs got up to 289.21, so pretty close. But again, very light volume. Let's not make too much out of it here today. You see the Russell 2000 there via the IWM. Maybe a little bit of an evening star pattern. So this is a little bit of a kind of the Russell's lagging just a touch here, so it's a little bit of an outside day here for the Russell as opposed to the spiders and Qs, which were inside. So we could make note of that. Generally, the Russell, I like to see the Russell lead. The Russell has been leading the last couple of weeks, really the last month or so. So that may be a bit of a change. It could also just signal rotation into tech. So again, nothing's really jumping out at me today as far as major signals for what's coming next. The Dow did get a little bit overbought here as well. But it was down 60 basis points today. A little bit of a tail candle there. Got almost all the way up to 340. Gets 339.87 there on the Dow. So we'll watch that one. You never really confirmed this breakout here, by the way. So we did, actually, well, technically you did on Friday. So I'll take that back. So we did. So we'd expect that, that 331 area to be support here on the downside. If that breaks, though, that would be a sign of weakness here and possible fake breakout. But for right now, we'll just leave it at that. Again, just one little pullback day and nothing really too much else to make out of it right now. Semiconductors, which we touched on, again, into this blue trend line now. So basically almost tagged that perfectly with perfection there. And then a little bit of a pullback. We'll see if we get more follow through there. Again, you are a little overbought going up into that. So, really at the start of this move, it was at 180 and change. And the highs of the day today was 222.60. So a 40-point move in the semiconductors here in, 7 or 8 days there. So a little overbought here. It does need to pull back. We'll watch the gap window here on the downside around 204. And then you have the gap. Well, that's not the gap fill anymore, but that was your breakout area right there at right at the 200 handle. Then your actual gap fill is down to 194. But for right now, again, just a one-day pullback, and let's not make too much more out of it. IGV also very tight range today. Nothing more than an inside day, kind of little micro spinning top candle. But IGV has been weak here, notably as of late. So just take that for what it's worth. Dow Transports, possible little topping tail here on the transports. Big thrust up, and just got really, you're starting to put on like a little bit of a run here. And now you're just getting extended, but a possible little topping tail. Now, I would prefer to see it with higher volume, but it is a nice pullback there. And again, going into that red bar, that's generally going to be resistance, especially when you're overbought going into it. There's a lot of supply in there. A lot of people bought this dip thinking that we were going to go back up, and that's where we reversed. So that is where those buyers are turning into sellers, and you're seeing that come back in. So again, we'll see follow through if it gets back below that 200 moving average. Then I may want to go back and retest that kind of 13.5, 13.8 area there on the daily time frame. But Dow Transports overall, again, pulling back just like everything else here, down just 15 basis points, but putting a pretty good tail on the charts there. 10-year inside day, remember the bond market was closed Friday, so that's why you're seeing that little gap there in the print. It was higher. Let's not make too much out of it. It's hanging in there. 30-year coming in a little bit more here. And the 2-year was really kind of all over the map, but ultimately just kind of putting in an inside day there. You could be starting to set up an inside bar. But the problem is you never confirmed above this trend line. You're still below the 50 moving average, the 100, the 200, and the trend is very strong to the downside. 200 above the 100, 100 above the 50, 50 above the 20. So again, this is a strong downtrend, and this can fail. It has a higher likelihood of failing unless you can really get back above that 50. And I'd say you really want to see it happen sooner rather than later here. And then there's the 30-year here as well, as opposed to the TYX, but that did get a nice thrust last week, still below that 50 moving average. And again, trend is still strong to the downside, so be aware of that. XHB, nice pullback day here, down almost 3%. So this kind of led to the downside just a little bit, basically rejecting that 200 moving average, so no confirmation above that on the XHB. And you can see the same thing with the ITB there. We'll see how it reacts at that 57 handle. That's your gap window. And that's also the level that it broke out of as well. So we'll be watching that on the downside. VNQ, nice pullback there as well. You want to see this hold that 50 moving average, and really, more importantly, this white trend line. If you get back below that, then this inverse head and shoulders can fail. So just be aware of that. But for right now, it does have a target of basically up to about $94. But it's really got to hold this 83.50 area here in the near term. XLF, possible, almost kind of a possible little evening star. It almost has the same look as the IWM here. So kind of that gap up, right? And then a gap down and a sell-off. We made note of that last time. It had that kind of run up here, gap up, and then a sell off. So it was like an evening star kind of candle pattern there. And again, you can see the same thing on the XLF. Big gap up, another gap up with a doji, and now a sell off again. It's nothing too major right now. There's not like heavy volume behind it, but we'll watch it at that 200 moving average. If it holds that, then I can hold up for now. If it loses that, then it probably wants to go back down and fill that gap. So be aware of that on the XLF. Broker dealers here, pretty much the same kind of look. If it holds the 470 area, it's fine. If not, it probably wants to go back test 460, but I don't really see any problems here, at least not at the moment. Crude, nice little sell today, so down over 4%, 4.2% to be exact, as it's currently trading. And you might have a micro little bear pattern here. So personally, I'm rooting for it. I would like for it to head lower so we can get a better entry. But we'll see what it does. It's been kind of all over the map, and really the last, since August, with the exception of this little dip here, you've gone pretty much sideways. So it's been really all over the map. Again, tried to trigger that inverse head and shoulders last week. It did not trigger. So we'll see if it does. If it heads down, we'll have a little bit of a test at the 80 candle. And then, of course, it's down to that blue trend line there, which is where I've been kind of waiting for it to get for a long time. But we'll see if it even bothers to get down there this time. XLE, also kind of a little bit of a tail candle here. So it was only down 3 cents on the day. But you put in a pretty good tail. I would have liked to see better volume before calling more of a top in it. But you did make a new high. You pierced double top, and you pulled back in. So we'll see what it does. It needs follow through the downside. It's still pretty strong here. XOP also holding up as well, but same kind of look there. And then OIH, pretty nice little sell off there on the OIH, down almost 2% on the day. Again, volume could be better. It's not great. But we'll see what it does here in the next couple of days. See if we get some follow through. Nat gas, again, all over the map here. Take a look at the intraday. So it gapped up, then rallied back, almost a gap fill. Chugged higher all night, chugged higher all afternoon, and then it sold really into the lunch hour and filled the gap. And then now it's getting a bounce. So all over the map here, I wouldn't do anything with it right now. There's nothing, it's too sloppy at the moment. Look at these candles here. Look at the body versus the wicks. I mean, they're going all over the place right now. Let's just let it firm up here before we do anything with it at the moment. Dollar index continuing to bounce. I should say not continuing, but it did bounce today up 0.5%. So again, that put pressure on the markets. Again, dollar up, markets down, and vice versa. We did do technical damage on the dollar, so we'll see how it reacts. I do think it at least gets down to that 200 moving average. You've got a good amount of support here between 104 and 104.70. Or we'll just say 104 and 105. Then if you get through that, I told you guys over the weekend, 103 would be a bigger level there on the DXY. Gold actually up today, so up 30 basis points with the dollar up. So that's showing a little bit of relative strength. Again, it's one day. Let's not make too much out of it, but gold is holding up pretty decently. GDX still kind of an inside candle there. So if this consolidates a little bit more, you could put it in an inside bar. So we'll be on watch for that. But GDX having a nice... had a nice run here off the lows, and it's holding up well for now. So we're respected at the moment. Silver also showing good relative strength, up 2%, just under 2% on the day. Again, I think this wants to go to that 23 handle. Maybe it needs to do a little bit more backhand filling first, but for right now, it's holding up okay, and I can't really see anything wrong with it. Currently, platinum also backing off, but now finding support at this upper top side trend line here. That was resistance before. Again, it's still a little extended, so I don't know how long it could hold that channel there. But hey, what can you say? Platinum's holding up well, and I've been liking it for quite some time now. Copper here. So basically, you kissed that 200 moving average for all intents and purposes. Nice little sell-off there. Good reaction, down 2% on the day. We'll see what kind of pattern it puts in. Again, if this goes sideways, it's telling you it wants to go higher. If it rejects and closes below that green bar, probably wants to go back down and test that 360 area. So that is really what I'm looking at right here now on copper. And then over to Bitcoin, just continues to remain under pressure. It tried to bounce earlier today. It had a nice bounce in the morning, and really just kind of faded all of that back off. So really by the end of the day, it's kind of just faded down. Again, it's under pressure, and can you blame anybody? If this is kind of coming under, the other side of the trade is basically that, if any sort of good news happens, you could get a pretty good squeeze here. The problem is, when's the next shoe to drop, right? And everybody's waiting for that right now. And I don't blame people for trying to pull their money out. I've heard stories of people trying to pull their money from exchanges, and it's taking a lot longer than it should. So there's problems out there. I don't, where there's smoke, there's fire, and there was definitely not only smoke but fire last week. And it's pretty remarkable how things are holding up right now, considering what's actually happening right now. It might be one of those situations where it's like it doesn't matter until it does. That's really what it feels like right now, especially with, like we mentioned earlier, like with the VIX just continuing to grind lower. Yes, it was up today, but it's still inside of this kind of channel here. And it's like, a lot of complacency. So I'll say that. But anyways, as far as Bitcoin is concerned, the longer you stay inside of this red bar, the worst setup is going to get. You want to see it really bounce and start to squeeze now, because otherwise it's going to build yet another bear base here for a move down to probably about the 12 to 11,000 handle. So that is what I'm looking at there for Bitcoin. Outside of that, again, spiders, just a pullback day, inside day. Let's not make too much out of it just yet. We'll see what we get tomorrow. It is OPEX week. Stay on your toes. Be ready for rumors. Be ready for games. And just sit back and enjoy the show, because it's probably going to get crazier. So anyways, guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. You guys take care. Come find me on CarnivoreTrades.com. I'll talk to you guys all tomorrow.